Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Simple Watch Reviews, where I review simple watches in a straightforward way. Today, what I think is probably the best sub-homage for people with smaller wrists, the Milifortic D100. So there we go, there's the watch, and doesn't it look fantastic? It really does catch the light very, very nicely. As always, this video is filmed in 4K, so you can really see the detail of the watch. I want the watches to be the stars of my videos rather than me, so hopefully that 4K helps with that. You might need to tweak your settings on YouTube to get it to display in 4K, but it will be worth it because you can really see the detail there. So, as I said in the intro, there are two things that Milifortic have done with this watch that really make it, I think, the best option for people with small wrists. So I've got a 6¼ inch wrist, so definitely on the small side, definitely smaller than average, but I've found that this watch wears really, really well. So I'll tell you later on in the video what those two things are, but firstly, let me just go through the specs with you. So as you can see, this is styled on the kind of newer style of Rolex Submariner with the fatter lugs. It's got a 40mm diameter, it's 48mm in the lug to lug, and it's 12mm thick, so it's quite thin for one of these sub homages. They tend to be, 12.3 upwards. It's got a Seiko NH35 inside, which is ticking away very nicely on mine. But the fact that Milifortic have managed to get it so thin really does help with the wearability of it. It's got, as you would expect, 20mm lug width, so lots of options available for you in terms of different straps and things like that. So let's just have a look at it. The quality of this is really nice, and in particular the finish on the bezel is gorgeous. So rather than having loomed white markers on the bezel, which a lot of the homage makers are doing nowadays, they've gone with kind of a grey silver colour which matches the new sub, and it really looks fantastic. And the depth of the engraving on these is really something. They really do look great, and the bezel action is fantastic as well. It's really nice and clicky, really satisfying with very little play in it at all. The case is finished exactly how you would expect a sub homage case to be finished, so brushed on top to match the bracelet, polished at the sides, just a plain case back there, and a nice grippy screw down crown with big kind of rounded crown guards there. The other thing that feels just right on this watch is the date magnifier. So let me just move the minute hand so you can see that. So it's not too strong, it's not too weak, it really does make a difference. I think that looks absolutely great. What I'm going to do now is put in some outside shots of the watch as well, so you can really see how it catches the light when it's outside. One of the things I love about this watch is the dial is always the same colour. It's always this really rich, glossy, deep black, but the bezel changes colour depending on how you look at it. So you can see at the moment it's kind of a silvery grey colour, but when you tilt it, it goes black. So it goes the same colour as the dial, but when you look at it straight on, it's got that lovely kind of ghosty look to it. It's really, really charming in real life. Really nice to look down. Every time I've looked down at this watch when I've been wearing it, I've smiled. The lume on the watch is BGW9, and it seems to glow really brightly. It's always difficult to assess lume in videos like this, so I thought the way I'd do it is to compare it to the lume on my Tudor Pelagos 39. So I've got the two watches side by side, and you can see that the lume on the Milifortic glows just as brightly as it does on the Tudor. So that gives you an indication of how decent the lume is. As you'd expect, the crystal is sapphire with anti-reflective coating, and whilst that coating doesn't cut out all of the reflections, it definitely does a pretty good job. Right, let's talk about the bracelet then, because this is where Milifortic have made some interesting choices, and I definitely think they make the watch better as a result. So I've tried loads of different sub homages over the years, and I've always found they wear a bit too big. And part of the reason for that is they almost all, like the Rolex, have male end links on the bracelet. And what that means is that lug to lug, which is on paper 48mm, actually gets bumped up to more like 51 or 52mm. And that for me just makes the watch too big. Milifortic have got female end links on this bracelet, and as you can see, the bracelet actually is the effective length of the lugs is actually less than 48mm, because the bracelet tucks really nicely underneath the case. So that makes a big difference. The other thing that Rolex have done with the subs now, and a lot of the homage makers have done as well, is add a glide lock style clasp. So a clasp where you can change the size of the bracelet on the flight, which is a really nice feature. I've got that feature on my Tudor Pelagos, and it's great to have. But, and this is a big but if you've got smaller wrists, it extends the length of the clasp. So it makes the clasp a lot longer than it would be otherwise. Milifortic have gone with a simple clasp on this one, so push buttons to open it up. It's very nicely milled, as you can see. There's 4 levels of micro adjust, but because it's not a glide lock style clasp, it's shorter than it would have been otherwise, and that again makes the watch wear really, really nicely and comfortably. And because they've managed to shave a bit of thickness off the case as well, you can see when I put it on, it wears very close to the wrist. A lot of the sub homages I've tried in the past have worn quite high on the wrist, but this one wears very, very nicely indeed. So the female end links, the standard style shorter clasp, and the couple of fractions of millimetre that they've managed to shave off the thickness of the watch really make a difference in how it wears, especially if, like me, you've got smaller wrists. So let me put in some footage of me outside with the watch on, so you can really get a sense of what it looks like. But this is, for me, the first sub homage I've had that feels like it wears like I want it to wear. I've had so many over the years. I've had San Martin, Steel Dive. I've even had a Swiss one, Devosa, which was about 5 times the cost of the Milifortic. And none of those wear as nicely as this one does. It really does wear fantastically on my wrist. So key question then is price. I think the price of this is very, very good. It competes well with the Suggest, which I think is the other kind of very well considered homage sub at the moment. So the prices are similar. So it's about £150, about $200 US. The Suggest, like the other subs that I mentioned, has the male end links on the clasp. I haven't had a Suggest, I haven't handled one, but looking at the pictures of it, it looks like the quality, appears to be very, very similar. Certainly the bezel on the Suggest looks exactly the same as the bezel on the Milifortic. So I think, quality-wise, they're probably very, very comparable. But if you've got smaller wrists, the Milifortic has a bit of a leg up in terms of just being a bit more wearable. I've gone for the black one here, but they do it in a variety of colours. So you can either get all blue, all green, or black dial with green bezel. So those are my thoughts on the Milifortic D100. I really do think those 2 design choices that Milifortic made with the bracelet make this the best option for people like me with smaller wrists. Do let me know what you think in the comments, and please do consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content like this from me.